what evidence do you have that satisfies you that this was a valid action by the IDF?
So the IDF, as the spokesperson said, has indicated clearly that some things could be declassified, and they were declassified, and there were pictures provided, by the way, they're completely public, of the specific journalist, Anas, who was documented himself in Hamas uniform
but how
with
recent
weapons.
was that, Ms. Mosammalande? How recent was that?
No, very recent. The guy is a very young man in the territory, in Gaza and elsewhere. It was not years ago. This is very recent.
Well, the tracking document that's been put out dates back to 2023. But even if we allow that this gentleman was in some way working for Hamas, what of those who were with him?
It's not in some way, sir. I would like to stress, these are men who work for Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera...
Are you telling me that all 5 of them, in your view, were Hamas operatives?
I don't know that, and I cannot give you that answer. I can tell you that Anas specifically...
So I appreciate your candor, thank you. So if you don't know...
You're welcome.
How can you possibly sanction the murder of what possibly 4 innocent journalists, allowing that you believe Anas al-Sharif to be a Hamas operative?
So first of all, Anas was killed not in a targeted manner and not because he is a so-called journalist, and I say this in inverted commas, but because he is a Hamas operative. I don't know regarding the rest.
But how can you justify that? I appreciate it wasn't your action. I appreciate, and I'm very grateful that you come in as a former member of Knesset, but how can you justify 4 innocent journalists, or I think one of them was a field producer, so go ahead.
I'm trying to answer. I can, and I do have the information that the Israeli policy, as opposed to what that French journalist said prior to my speaking, is absolutely not to target innocent civilians and or journalists. And any and all evidence that needs to be declassified to show that not only Anas, but the other 4 are not innocent civilians will be provided. There is no policy by the Israeli IDF and or government to target journalists. This is not something that we do. On the contrary, we are convinced.
But why is it then that figures from the 2 organisations, Independent Freedom Journalists and the CPJ, says that 274 journalists have been killed in various operations in Gaza, 269 of them are Palestinian? How can you possibly say the IDF isn't killing journalists?
Because the IDF is killing operatives that work for the Hamas.
All 274 now, are they? They're all Hamas.
The Hamas... it's a pity that you're laughing because I'm
not laughing. I just find I say to you, I find it risible that you want my listeners to believe of the 274 journalists who've died since the 11th of August 2025, numbers certified by 2 separate organisations, respectfully, 269 of them of whom were Palestinian. You want my listeners to believe they were all journalists. That's what I find risible.
So respectfully, sir, if I may finish a full sentence, please. Perhaps I will allow your listeners to have a little bit more information.
Please.
The Palestinian Gazans who have been hired by Al Jazeera to be so-called journalists, by the way, not a few of them had actually taken hostages and tortured our hostages, and this has been a proven point told by hostages that have been given back in agreed upon agreements with the Hamas. So those so-called journalists have been in Gaza, young people, they've been in the indoctrinating process of Hamas for the past 20 years. They have been so-called covering the so-called horrors of Israel and accompanying Hamas operatives all along.
All right, all 274 then, you believe, lastly?
First of all, 274 is a number that has been given by whom?
By whom? By the 2 separate organisations, the Committee for the Protection of Journalists and the Independent Freedom of Journalists organisation, so both journalists' bodies.
Okay, so those journalist bodies...
They're lying as well,
give
are they?
The names, if they... Why are you putting words in my mouth, may I ask? Did I say that?
Because you've disputed every single figure that's been put
I have
forward.
not disputed. I am saying
you disputed
a fact,
Reporters Sans Frontières. I would imagine you will dispute these two. So that's three separate organisations that put these figures out, Ruth.
I have not disputed. What I'm saying is very simple.
Right.
The Hamas and organizations are saying that Israel is targeting journalists. I am telling you, Israel is not targeting journalists. What is happening is that Israel is targeting Hamas operatives that are killing our people, and by the way, killing Palestinians as well, on a daily basis, by the way.
I'm grateful for your time.